So hello everyone, this is our first interview for WSOL platform, and we are meeting Professor Susan Whitney today. She's a coordinator and a professor of the Physical Therapy Post-Professional Master Program, and she also has a clinic at UPMC when she is specialized in treating people with vestibular imbalance disorder. Hello, Professor Sue.
Hello.
How are you?
Very good.
So our first question is
Well, certainly people with vestibular disorders, and sometimes people with migraine,
yes.
and persons living with multiple sclerosis often will have difficulty looking at screens and multimedia. It can make them very dizzy.
Oh.
I think so, but I'm not sure because I don't know that anybody's studied it. So your question of is there a change in how people perceive dizziness and
Yes.
get symptoms with the addition of social media? I would guess yes, but I don't know if there's data to support that.
Yes.
Certainly there've always been children, even with PlayStations and some of the older video toys that kids have, that they couldn't
Yes.
tolerate that. So I think there's always been people who are intolerant, but the action is so fast now sometimes that I think it really complicates things.
Right.
I don't think we know yet, but I can tell you what I think in terms of what triggers or symptoms. So I think some of it may be the size of the screen. So if the screen is very small, like this, it's probably much more difficult to look at than if it's larger, although it depends on what you're looking at. So if you look at small stripes on any size platform, it's going to be more difficult than if you look at wider stripes. So some of it is the contrast, I believe. Certainly, and patients have told me that if you have high contrast, what that means is black and white versus gray and white. Gray and white is easy to look at.
Yes.
Black and white is much more difficult to look at, or red and white. So the high contrast colors to the low contrast colors are very difficult for people to look at. And if they're still, it's bad, but it's not as bad as if it's moving. And the faster it moves, usually the more symptoms people have.
So it's movements, color, and the size of screen.
Those are some of the parameters.
Yes.
Yeah, and even people, for example, that have lazy eyes, meaning that their eyes, when they were children, that they're weak, or they were weak anyway. And even if they have surgery, they have to work really hard to focus. And when you have high contrast things in front of you, many people will get dizzy, especially those who have had a weakness in the eye. Well, there's different parts to this. So if you think about it, how can you can't be completely involved in the world if you can't see the information and share. So part of it is access.
Yes.
And part of it is if you get dizzy, how can you enjoy the rest of your life? If this makes you dizzy and you want to do other things, how can you manage that if you're dizzy already? So that's part of it. And in terms of web design, I think people have to start to think about the entire person, and not all people can look at some of these highly visualized
Yes.
screens. So imagine looking at a bunch of stripes flying by you. There are a lot of people who don't have dizziness that just go, oh, that's terrible.
Yes.
And if you've got some dizziness or you feel like you might get dizzy, you're one of those kinds of people, it makes it really difficult. So some people will just totally avoid social media because they don't know whether they're going to be exposed to those kinds of environments. So what they'll do is they'll shut down and say, I don't want to get dizzy, I'm not going to turn it on, and then they've closed themselves off from parts of the world that they could be open to them.
Yes, right.
Well, my recommendations for web designers would be to keep things more simple.
Yes.
And if you really want all people to see it, you can't make it highly complex and extremely high contrast and fast moving. Otherwise, you'll have a segment of the population that won't be able to view your message.
Okay, so thank you, Professor Sue.
You're welcome.
We enjoyed having you today.
Thank you.